let's talk about deductions, specifically the less straightforward deductions that you can take in your business that are really fun, the ones you want to be spending money on in your business meals and travel. Welcome to the Sunlight Tax Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, author of Taxes for Humans, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or wellness-oriented entrepreneur who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hello. So happy to be with you today. As you probably know, if you've been listening to this podcast, I have a book, an amazing tax guide that is coming out November 26th. So I thought, as I prepare the launch party and all the things, I thought I would do a couple episodes for you reading excerpts from the book, partly to teach you about some wonderful things that are in it, the actual tax rules to help you, but also to give you a sense of the flavor of the book, how it's written, the kind of like approachable tone that's funny and judgment-free. So my goal first right now today is to basically talk about one of the things that I get the most requests for, which is let's talk about deductions, specifically the less straightforward deductions that you can take in your business that are really fun, the ones you want to be spending money on in your business meals and travel. So let's jump on in to business meals and travel deductions today. And just to let you know, this is an excerpt taken directly out from the manuscript of my book, Taxes for Humans. Simplify your taxes and change the world when you're self-employed. Okay, so let's jump in. Chapter 4, Business Expenses. What counts as a business deduction? This section is the reason you bought this book, right? We all want to know what's deductible for us, and business deductions are the most straightforward benefit of running a business. U.S. tax law is generous when it comes to allowing you business deductions. According to the IRS, you may deduct any business expense so long as it is both ordinary and necessary. Ordinary means accepted and normal within your field. Necessary means helpful and appropriate, but it doesn't have to be indispensable. For example, I don't need to attend a business conference that will be useful for making new business contacts. I can decide that the timing or the cost isn't right for me, but it will be helpful to go, so it counts as a deductible business expense. All right, baseline documentation rule. The baseline business deduction documentation rule is that you need a receipt. This serves as your proof that the expense on your tax return actually happened. The IRS has the right to review your receipts, so you need to keep them for 7 years to cover you for the full IRS 6-year statute of limitations. See Chapter 19 for audit timing rules. Special rules for special deduction categories. There are special rules for deductions where you either don't normally get a receipt, like renting office space or driving to a business meeting, or where a deduction tends towards abuse. Think fun categories like business meals and business travel. Okay, so let's jump in. Business meals. There are 2 types of deductible business meals: meals with a business contact and meals while traveling for business. All business meals are only half deductible. Here's the logic. Whether you're doing business or not, you have to eat. So the IRS splits the difference and allows you half the expense. Meals with a business contact. Meals are a way to win new business, exchange contacts and ideas, and develop business relationships. For that reason, they are partly deductible. While business meals are a great deduction, they tend to get abused. For that reason, the IRS has an extra stringent rule. You must keep the receipt and list who the business contact is and what the business purpose was. This means that if you can only produce the receipts for your business meals, but are missing the contact name and business purpose, your meal deduction will be disallowed. My method for tracking this is simple. I keep a calendar. When I plan to meet with someone for a business meeting over coffee, drinks, or a meal, I put it in my calendar and I jot down the purpose of the meeting. As long as I get the receipt during the meal itself, I've now satisfied the documentation requirement. Note that this means that if your business meals category is audited, you'll need to show the IRS your calendar on top of the receipts themselves, okay? If you prefer, you can also jot down the contact name and purpose of the meeting directly on the receipt and then stash it in your wallet or snap a quick photo for your digitized files. You may not throw out your business credit card at any meal where you briefly mention business. You must have a business purpose in mind going in. Tread carefully. This category is a frequent IRS target because they know people get loosey-goosey with it. Business meals are for cultivating business relationships. This means that if you're dining solo and not traveling away from home, it's not a deductible meal. Travel meals. When you travel for business, your meals are deductible, half of them. These you can do alone. To be a valid travel meal, you must be away from home on business for long enough to require rest. Usually this means overnight. The IRS believes in brown bagging, so if you just have a long day but you come home to sleep, you don't get to take a meals deduction. There are two different methods for taking a deduction for travel meals. Method 1, the actual expense method. This is what it sounds like. You track the actual expense of the meal and you keep the receipt, right? Method 2, alternatively, you can take what's called a standard meals allowance expense when you travel. The standard meal allowance is an average rate set for meals based on the costs in that geographic area. The GSA provides a rate table for domestic business travel, and the State Department keeps the rate table for foreign travel. To use this method, you simply track the area you traveled to and the number of days that you were there. At tax time, you look up the rate table for the place you traveled to on either the GSA or State Department per diem website and calculate the deductible amount of the standard meal allowance rate. There's a little extra math for first and last days. You can only take 75% of the full standard meal allowance rate for those days, but you get 100% for the days in the middle. Add all of this up, and that's your reportable amount for these travel meals. Note that you still will be getting a deduction for only 50% of this total. Although you don't need a receipt to take the standard meal allowance, you do need a valid proof of the time, place, and business purpose of your travel. The cool thing about the standard meal allowance for travel meals is that you don't need to keep receipts. I love this because I'm a light eater, so my meals are often cheaper than the average. This is one of the few dreamy places in the tax code where I can deduct a higher amount than what I actually spent. That said, if you order the filet mignon and 3 top-shelf martinis while traveling for business, you might prefer the actual expense method. All right. That was the section on business meals. Now I want to jump ahead in this deduction chapter, chapter 4, and talk to you about business travel. I have not done a really good episode about business travel before, so I think this will be really helpful for you. And if you want the full details, of course, I hope you will get it in the book. All right, so here we go. Business travel. Business travel can be both fun and necessary to your business, but because it is ripe for abuse, the rules are both detailed and strict. When you travel for a 100% business purpose, the rules are straightforward. It's deductible. But what counts as business travel? Business travel is defined by the IRS as when your duties require you to be away from your tax home for substantially longer than a normal day's work, and that the time away is long enough for you to require rest. Think a night's sleep and not a nap in the car. What is your tax home? Since business travel only counts when you're away from your tax home, let's define that. Your tax home is the main place of your business or where you earn your income. This can be a different location from where you live. Take, for example, athlete Caitlin Clark. Clark, at the time of my writing, plays in the WNBA for the Indiana Fever, but she lives in Iowa. Her tax home is Indiana, where she plays, not Iowa, where she sleeps. The same could be true for you if you commute across state lines for your work. If you do branding work for biotech companies, you might rent an office on the Route 128 tech corridor in Massachusetts to be close to your target clients. If you commute from your home in Nashua, New Hampshire, that means your tax home is Massachusetts, not New Hampshire. You can travel away from your tax home for up to a year. If your trip is longer than that, it's no longer business travel with travel deductions. It's a new tax home. Travel is fully deductible when it is 100% for business and does not include personal elements. You can deduct any ordinary and necessary expenses you incur, including baggage fees, shipping for getting materials to and from the temporary site, tips, laundry, airfare, taxis, etc. Travel meals have special rules, which I covered before. The rules get more complex when you mix business and pleasure, and they differ based on whether travel is within the U.S. or outside it. For our purposes here, U.S. travel includes only the 50 states and the District of Columbia. Here are the U.S.-based travel rules. If your U.S.-based trip is primarily for business, but you take a personal side trip, extend the trip for a vacation, etc., then you may deduct only the business portion of the trip and the business expenses. But you may deduct the entire cost of transportation to and from the travel location. If your trip is primarily for personal reasons, but you do some business activities, you may deduct only the direct cost of those activities, not the cost of transportation to and from the travel location. For example, if you're a professional drag performer and you visit LA to see friends, but you take one day of your trip to attend RuPaul's DragCon, then you can deduct your DragCon ticket as a business expense, but none of your other LA travel expenses. If you travel on a cruise ship or to a resort, even if it's advertised as a business trip by the host, it is considered a vacation. Small amounts of time spent on business activities within this setting will not change this fact. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and skip the foreign travel rules about airfare because they are extremely complex, but I want to assure you that I cover all of it in the book. But just for your pleasurable podcast listening, I'm going to skip over them here. And I'm going to jump to business travel for research. This is a category that I get asked about all the time. It's important because in the arts, there is, in fact, a lot of research that we do. You know, a novelist might go to a place that they're, setting a novel to take in the atmosphere, get the characters, taste the food, hear the music, see the sights, right? But it's really important to understand the role of research in business deductions. They're not the deduction that you think they are. So let me clarify for you, and I will read the part of Taxes for Humans that addresses business travel for research. So here we go. Business travel for research. Travel for education, aka general research, whether domestic or international, is never allowed. Tread carefully. A trip with a direct business purpose is fine, but simply going to a location to soak it in and learn about it, as many artists and writers do, will not make the trip deductible. Test this at your peril. I've seen novelists get nailed for it. A deductible trip could look like this. You're contracted as a location scout for a mini-series about people at a luxury resort in Sicily. You travel to Palermo and set up meetings in advance with a hotel concierge, 2 craft services caterers, a fixer to help you navigate Italian red tape, and a list of locations to scout, according to a pre-arranged schedule. These include a grand outdoor stairway, an island villa, a beach location, and a luxury resort with a restaurant that meets the filmmaker's requirements. This is deductible business travel. A counterexample: you're a novelist setting your next novel in Palermo. You book a 1-month trip to Sicily where you stay in an Airbnb, take walks, meet people, soak in the local culture, and write every day. Despite writing while you're there, this is not deductible travel. It counts as travel for education, and that is not deductible. Final thoughts on business travel. Business travel is a great deduction, often a necessary step to make contacts and gain business. And it can be fun. Be aware that it's rightfully under IRS scrutiny to prevent abuse, so keep it businesslike. Arrange your meetings in advance and save your receipts, correspondence, and calendar. If an IRS letter comes requesting all your travel documentation for the last 3 years, you'll breathe easier knowing you can show your business purpose and documentation for all of it. And absolutely, when you're in Tobago, after your business is done for the day, get a daiquiri, wink at the cute bartender, and put your toes in the sand. All right. That's my excerpt of my book, Taxes for Humans. I hope that was helpful for you. I get a lot of questions on travel rules and business meals, and they are not straightforward. They are not just about having receipts. So I hope it was helpful to you to get just a little more color about how those rules affect you and what you need to do. So while we're talking about it, my book is available for pre-order. You can pre-order it now. And I just wanted to say this one little thing about independent bookstores. I don't know if you follow me on social media or you're on my newsletter, but if you do, you may have noticed that I've been doing a really big push to try to drive sales as much as I can of my book to independent local bookstores. This really matters to me because this is who I serve, right? I care about the small business owner like you and me. So I discovered this thing in the process of writing and launching a book that bookstores do not want to hear from the author. It's useless for me to contact them. Who bookstores actually really care about is you, right? They care about their constituents. They care about their customers. So if you have a local bookstore in your area that you love, pre-ordering my book, Taxes for Humans, from that bookstore counts as an indication to that bookstore owner that there is demand for the book. And what it means is really helpful for my book getting into the hands of a bigger audience beyond you and me, because what it signals to that bookstore owner is, oh, somebody wants this book. What is this book? This book is wanted. And then it only takes 1 to 3 requests of a book for that bookstore owner to stock the book. So when you pre-order my book from your local independent bookstore, it makes a huge difference. It may mean that they actually stock the book so that somebody who's never heard of me running in April 14th, desperate for some help with their taxes, will see my book on the shelf, right? And that is who I want to reach, is those people outside my own circle who I don't know. I am hoping to be able to help that person with their taxes as well as people like you who know me already. So I encourage you, if you do plan to get the book, pre-orders are incredibly helpful, and a pre-order with your favorite local bookstore supports that bookstore and that bookstore owner. And it also supports my book by telling that bookstore, hey, people want this book. Check it out. So if you go to my sunlighttax.com/book, I have a button on there that I had programmed to actually rotate through a giant list of independent bookstores. So that will generate a random independent bookstore if you want to do it that way. But if there's a bookstore that you love locally, that's the one I encourage you to go to even more so. All right. I hope these travel rules really helped you today. Whether or not you get the book, whether or not you support independent bookstores, I hope that you now understand a little bit about research and general education, and also about meals while you're traveling, because we do so much business through personal relationships, and travel and meals are a part of relationship building for your business, right? You travel somewhere so you can meet people face to face, so you can build trust and companionship and understand each other as humans. And the same reason that we break bread with people that we want to do business with, because business really is about relationships, and we build relationships and bond over shared meals. So meals and travel are some of the most fun business deductions, and they are allowed for good reason, because human connection is actually what builds a great business. So I hope that's helpful for you. All right. Talk to you in the next one. Thanks for listening. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. It really helps. I'm so grateful. My tax guide, Taxes for Humans, is available for pre-order at sunlighttax.com/book. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links I reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.